Every year, scholars from around the world come to Mitchell, South Dakota to learn about prehistoric life.
They are helping to excavate a village that was first found more than 100 years ago, but that village was established more than 1,000 years ago, and the discoveries being made there are jaw-dropping. Indiana Jones has it wrong. In archaeology, history doesn't just fall into your lap. You have to dig for it. Literally. I mean, you really have to dig.
This is such an amazing place. It's right here in Mitchell.
Cindy Gregg is the executive director of the Archaea Dome. It was built over the site of a prehistoric village that was inhabited for about 150 years.
From about 900 AD to 1050 AD.
But what is also amazing are the discoveries that are being made. The United States named this site a National Historic Landmark in 1964. What is happening here is catching the eye of professional journals like World Archaeology. And these folks here are archaeology students from the University of Exeter in England who jumped at the chance to specifically come here and work.
I like to find stuff that no one's ever seen before. We're looking at stuff that's not been seen for 1,000 years.
As recently as 17 days ago, there was a significant find here.
That did something in our understanding of these people that nothing else has until now.
First, a brief explanation. The people who lived here more than 1,000 years ago killed bison on what Cindy Gregg calls an industrial scale.
We like to think of the bison as their big box store because everything on the bison was used for something.
Predominantly, these villagers boiled the bison's bones to make what's called bone grease, which was then used to make pemmican. Think of it as the world's first protein bar. In those prehistoric days, everyone wanted pemmican because it was high in protein and would keep you alive. And items found here show truly people from everywhere traded with these villagers for pemmican.
We have found lovely scallop shells from the Atlantic coast of Florida. We have found mollusks from the Gulf of Mexico, dentalium shells from the Northwest Pacific coast.
And that leads us back to the discovery made here 17 days ago.
We found this intact bison skeleton in a cache pit, and he was pretty much intact except for his head and the very tip of his tail.
These are the bones from that intact skeleton, the first intact bison ever found at this site. You might see bones, but archaeologists see a picture, a snapshot in time. Because this skeleton was found intact, they believe it was killed in the summer. If it was killed later, the bones would have been separated and boiled for that bone grease.
So one day in the summer, about 1,000 years ago, these people killed a bison, they butchered it, they brought him back to the village and continued to butcher him.
But there is another discovery that has been made here, and it changes our understanding and appreciation of the agrarian lifestyle that allowed the pioneers to survive and put South Dakota on the map.
It's a huge story. It's a huge story, and it's not taught in our schools.
That story involves corn. 6,000 years ago, it was first grown in Mexico. By 2,000 years ago, it was being grown in the American Southwest. Archaeologists working here in Mitchell have found fossilized corn in this village site.
It came here with the first people.
And we're standing in their backyard, right?
And we're standing in their backyard. Absolutely.
The significance of finding fossilized corn here, the people who lived in this village from 900 AD to 1050 AD were among the first, and likely the first, people to grow corn in South Dakota.
We know that the people who lived here 1,000 years ago brought corn here. I mean, these people had corn. We know that. They grew corn. We find corn in our digs. They brought corn here.
The corn growing industry in South Dakota today is a more than $3 billion a year business. Its deep roots are in Mitchell, South Dakota, and more than 1,000 years in the past.
All the corn that we grow here in South Dakota today owes its origins to the first people to live in South Dakota 1,000 years ago.
So why was that village in Mitchell abandoned in 1050 AD? It's likely because they ran out of raw materials, such as trees for wood and bison for food, and that forced them to move on.